Good morning. As it always is, it's a pleasure. My name is Ray Nino, and I'm going to spend 30 minutes today sharing some things that are close to my heart and deep in my heart, and I looking forward to it. The name of the message today is People Have Loved the Darkness More Than the Light. You know, God's influence on our lives causes us to wholeheartedly obey Him. But the devil's influence comes and causes us to turn our backs on God. John 3:19 says it this way. It says, the basis of the judgment, the indictment, the test by which men are judged, the ground for the sentence lies in this, and this is the get. The light has come into the world, and people have loved the darkness rather than and more than the light, for their works are evil, their deeds are evil. And he says in 17, he says, God did not send his son into the world in order to judge, reject, or condemn, to pass sentence on the world, but he sent him that the world might have salvation and be safe and sound through him. But many chose darkness rather than light. In my own life, I could say that's what happened. You know, I was young. My parents took me to church, but I rejected that way. I found my own way. I started to give rebellion and all types of things. I was influenced, by the music, by the movies, by the TV, by my friends, just like all of us are, just like you likely are. You probably have a list as well of the things that caused you to be pulled away from God. Corinthians 2:4 says, for the God of this world has blinded the unbelievers' minds that they should not discern the truth, preventing them from seeing the illuminating light of the gospel of the glory of Christ, the Messiah, who is the image and likeness of God. There it is, the light. That's the light that we've rejected. We need to be aware how the devil deals with us and how he blinds us and how he seduces us. And one of the things is the devil always misrepresents truth. He's a liar. He never speaks truth. He's a liar. And in 2 Corinthians 11:4 says, for you seem willing to allow it. If one comes and preaches another Jesus, whom we have not preached, or if you receive a different spirit from the one you received, or a different gospel from the one you accepted, you tolerate all this, welcoming the deception. You compromise the truth. That's what happens. When we've gone and heard the truth, and then the false comes, and we don't stand against the false. It says we tolerate it. We allow it. It even says we welcome it. And that's the devil. He's given us lies, and we're listening to the lies, and we're following them. If the devil can lead you astray, giving you another gospel, like the gospel of maybe easy grace, or telling you there is no hell, then you're going to fall trap to it. You're not going to walk in these words that Jesus has, and if you accept these teachings, you're not going to be set free, from his word, because you've not accepted the word of God. You've actually accepted a false word. You've actually received a false word, or as it says earlier, you've welcomed the deception. Having come out of the Christian music business, I was surprised to find out that many of the Christian artists, or some of the Christian artists, I don't even know how many of them, they don't even believe that there's a hell. And these are the same guys that sit there and sing about the resurrection of Jesus. Yet they don't believe there's a hell. That's the easy grace. Everybody would like to believe there's no hell because they don't want to believe there's a judgment. So that's the easy grace. John 8:31-32 says, "So Jesus said to the Jews who had believed in him, 'If you abide in my word, hold fast to my teachings, and live accordance with them, you are truly my disciples. And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free.'" If you're abiding in God, the truth's going to be in you, and it's going to set you free. If you're listening to the false teachings, you're not going to be set free. You're going to be pulled into a whole world of false, and you don't even know where the end of that goes. So you will not be set free if you compromise the truth and accept false teachings like easy grace and believing in hell. Another way, the devil wants you to deny his very existence. That's a key one. Or that he disguises himself as an angel of light. If the devil can get you to deny his existence, then we will become blind to what's going on in spiritual warfare around us. Ephesians 6:12 says, "For we're not wrestling with flesh and blood, contending only with physical opponents, but we are against the despotism, against powers, against master spirits who are in this world rulers of this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in heavenly supernatural sphere." The devil's fighting around you all the time. He's got principalities, powers, all setting in place, all putting lies, all putting things in front of you so that it can seduce you away from the truth, so it can pull you away from God, where eventually then your gift becomes inoperative. To deny that there's a spiritual battle is a major mistake. You open yourself up to all the influences of the devil, and he's going to use it. The door is open. He's going to walk in, and he's going to take control of you. 2 Corinthians 11:12-14 says, What I do, I will continue to do. For I am determined to maintain this independence in order to cut off the claim of those who would like to find an occasion and an incentive to claim that in their boastful mission, they work as the same terms as we do. For such men are false apostles, counterfeits, deceitful workmen, masquerading as apostles, special messengers of Christ, the Messiah. And it's no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. So it's not surprising if his servants also masquerade as ministers of righteousness, but their end will correspond with their deeds. I mean, all out there, all the time, we have false ministers trying to give those lies, trying to follow and give what the devil wants them to give to us, to pull us astray. When I was involved in the Christian music business, I was pretty blind, because all this was going on all the time, and I didn't see any of it. Many of the people involved, as well as myself, we were choosing darkness rather than light, but we didn't even know we were doing that. We were thinking we were choosing a godly path, but the whole time we were choosing darkness rather than light. The love of the world's music was so possessed us. We initiated, we imitated our own idols of music, masquerading as special messengers when we were nothing more than a messenger of the devil. That's really what was happening in the whole thing. We were doing the devil's work. We were giving the people the music they wanted, the music they had come out of. We were giving that to them and not even knowing it. You know, the same worldly music, just with Christian lyrics. Only it really wasn't Christian at all. It was a tool of the devil, and he was using it. Now, the devil, he also empowers his ministers to lead you away from the truth. All these things that I'm telling you, the devil is out there. I'm only scratching the surface. I'm only giving you a little bit of what he does. You know, I'm giving it to you as it affected me, as I saw it, and as it came on me. The devil empowers his ministers to lead you away from the truth. 2 Peter 2:1-2. But also in those days, the last days, which we are in, there also arose false prophets among the people, just as there were false teachers among yourselves, who will subtly introduce heretical doctrines, destructive heresies, even disowning the master who bought them, bringing out themselves out of swift destruction. I mean, it's going to deny Jesus, basically, is what it's saying. It's going to give credit to everything, to man and all, and it's going to say, these are all false. They're special messengers introducing, doctrines that are destructive. Some of the most popular, music today, like Bethel music, Hillsong music, elevation music. I mean, they've been accused of these very things. They've been accused of the Bible heresy. They've been accused of being false ministers. These guys have some strange practices, and you need to really look for yourself to see. And again, they've been accused and allegations of sexual misconduct amongst their leadership, some of which have been removed for the very things. These are people, as it says in Peter, that are denying the very power of God. But they're giving you something that you like. They're giving you the music that you think is great. You like the way it feels. It meets your soulish need, but it's not meeting your spiritual need, and you don't even realize it. Here's another key. The devil uses visual aids like movies, TV to seduce you to become part of a fantasy of your mind. And the music can be an evil road into your own emotions. By listening to it, you're really cooperating with the devil. You're empowering him to do the work in your lives. You're actually opening the door for him to come in. And the next thing you know, you're no longer fantasizing in your mind. You're now walking out that fantasy on a daily basis. And that's what happened to me. I know I shared a little bit of this before, but I want to share more in detail because it's very important to see how it works and what happens. I watched many times over and over, and I was totally enthralled, captivated, whatever, all the different words you want to use, by the movie The Endless Summer. It was a movie about surfing and how the surfers went all the way around the world during the whole year, so as it was an endless summer. And the whole time this is occurring, there's different groups, pretty well-known bands, are playing all this beach music. And all these things just, I lived in Pennsylvania. I lived up in the mountains. I didn't live anywhere near the beach. I was hours from the beach. But all I knew is I wanted this lifestyle. I felt that and I had just come back the previous summer. My parents and I and my brother and sister had gone to Florida. And so, for that little moment, I was experiencing that beach life, and it drew on me. And all the music and all the movies, watching it and that and over, and just finally, and plus, I need to say this because this is also really important. there were many TV shows that I watched. And all those shows, they were either right on the beach, they were out of Hawaii, they were all these places. And as I watched it, it was just more and more and more and more. Until one day, it was too much. I took the family's second car and went to Florida. And I thought, I have to go. I rebelled against my parents, and it was a whole ordeal. And it's interesting how the devil always comes against authority in your life, tries to cut the authority away from your life. And I did it anyway. When I got to Florida, my cousin had worked at different places, and he got me a job. He got me a job on the beach at Miami Beach. I was working 2 doors up from the Eden Rock and Fontainebleau. I was parking cars. I was parking Corvettes. I was parking, limos. I was parking Rolls Royces, Bentleys, big Lincoln Town cars. I was on the beach parking cars just like those TV shows I had watched, especially one that was always I watched, was one of them. But I watched it, and now I was doing it. The next thing I knew, though, one night I went, and illegally I would go to the dog tracks. I had manipulated my IDs and all that to be that I was 21 and I was only 18. And I went to the dog tracks and I hit the daily double. I would go 2-3 nights a week, but that particular night I hit the daily double. After it was over, I went and celebrated what I had done. And before I knew it, I was totally inebriated. I had started taking some drugs along with drinking, some serious whiskey and beer and all, and I couldn't find my way home. I didn't know. I was so out of it, I couldn't find my way home. And the next thing I knew, I drove my car in the three parked cars. I was doing 65 miles an hour. But I didn't stop. I just kept going. And the police arrested me down the road. They took me to jail. They took me to the probably worst jail that there is. Well, for sure, it's one of the worst in Florida. It's probably one of the worst in America. They put me in jail in Dade County Jail. Now, I'm 18 years old. They put me in a cell block with, I don't even know what all these guys did, but they were not good guys. 2 cell blocks up from me was a famous guy by the name of Murph the Surf. He was there at that time. Ironically, he ended up getting out and then getting in the prison ministry, and he actually showed up in this town and witnessed in this town. But I was in there with him. I went through hell. I think I was there 10 days, and I think I lost 15 pounds. And my father had to fly down, get me in court. My lawyer asked, he said one thing. He said, if I get you off, you have to volunteer for military service. Well, volunteering for military service back then meant you were going to Vietnam. He got me off, and my next step was Vietnam. But you can begin to see how this situation, how these movie and the music and all the different things, it steals from you. You thought you were doing great. You thought you had everything you wanted. You were working the cars on the beach and you're thinking, oh, isn't this unbelievable? I'm doing just like the TV show. Yeah, well, you're also doing like the TV show when you went to jail, and you were under DWI, and almost went to jail for a long time. But because of a technicality, it got you off. But it did get you Vietnam. Another thing that Satan does, Satan drives people from the truth and into false churches that minister to their soulish needs. 2 Thessalonians 2:9-10 says, the coming Antichrist, the lawless one, is through the activity of Satan, attended with great power all kinds of counterfeit miracles and deceptive signs and false wonders, all of them, and by unlimited seduction to evil, and with all the deception of wickedness for those who are perishing. Here's the key: because they did not welcome and love the truth of the gospel, so they could be saved. They were spiritually blinded. That's what happens. When God comes and that visitation in your life comes and the gospel's there, and I've had many friends that have actually been here at the church and things and had experienced this. They had the truth. They visited the truth. The truth came to them. They walked in the truth. But then they rejected it. They rejected the truth. Then the people, when they leave, inevitably, they're driven into churches that promote the very things that they themselves once acknowledged as wrong. They totally change. They start acting, like, oh, I never lived that way. I never lived. They start becoming just like the people. They immerse themselves in profane music. They watch wicked movies and TV, and also participate in pagan ceremonies, celebrations. The church services that they have, they usually mimic typical rock concerts. Big sound systems, unique lighting. Some of them, they even have smoke, for effect. It's a sad thing. Amos talks about it, and he says this: woe to those, again he says, woe to those who lie upon beds of ivory and stretch themselves upon their couches and eat the lambs out of the flock and the calves out of the midst of the stall, who sing idle songs to the sound of the harp and invent themselves instruments of music like David, who drink wine in bowls and anoint themselves with the finest oils, but are not grieved and sick of heart over the affliction and the ruin of the church in Israel. They didn't care about anybody else but themselves. That's what Amos is saying when he's saying they lie on their beds of ivory. It's like, I'm here. I'm the only one that I care about. I'm comfortable. I'm doing great. Some of them even say I'm serving God. They are totally into the ungodly music, and they try to imitate the music of David, but they can't, because they have so much of the music of the world now in them. They can't do what David did, because it was anointed, it was pure, it was holy of God. They can't do that. They drink wine from bowls, that's what he says, and anointing with the finest oils. And what he's saying there is, these same people, they live their lives. They wear all the name brand items. They got to wear the name brand items. They got to wear the fancy watches, the Rolexes, or whatever, whatever it is. They drive the premier vehicles. They drive the best vehicles. Only the best will they accept, because they think they deserve it. Then, you got to begin to understand, all these people love the darkness rather than the light. These next two verses I'm going to read are very important because it sums it up. I could go on and on. I could tell you more things, how the devil acts and reacts and how he affected my life and the things that I did that I should have never done. But these verses here, 1 John 1, 5 through 6. And he says it this way: and this is the message. We just gave you the message. The message is they chose darkness rather than light. This is the message of promise, which we have heard from him and now are reporting to you. God is light. That's the message. There is no darkness in him at all. No, not any at all. God is light. There is no darkness in him. No, not any at all. So if we say we're partakers together, this is verse 6, and enjoy fellowship with God, when we live and move and are walking about in darkness, we're both we're lying, speaking falsely, and we do not live and practice the truth which the gospel presents. That's the reality. That's the message. God is light, and there is no darkness in him at all. No, not any at all. If you're still living that life and you're on the fence, and you think, oh, I can live here and I can go to church, I can do all these things during the week, and, I can watch my TV, my movies, listen to my music, be totally affected by the world. And then I can go to church on Sundays and sing praises and think that I'm walking in the light. I'm deceived. And totally deceived. And that's what he's saying. This is the message. He says, if you're walking about in darkness, you're speaking falsely. You're not living and practicing the truth. It says in Galatians 5:19, and it lists all this. And it gives you exactly, what the doings are. It says, now the doings, the practices of the flesh are clear. They're obvious. They are immorality, impurity, indecency, idolatry, sorcery, enmity, strife, jealousy, anger, ill temper, selfishness, divisions, dissension, party spirit, factions, sects, with particular opinions of heresy, envy, drunkenness, carousing, and the like. I warn you beforehand, just as I did previously, that those who do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. If you do those things, you're not going to heaven. You're deceived. You're on the fence. You think you are, but you're not. So many people sit around and go, oh, no, I think I'm a Christian. I'm doing that. But then you look at their lifestyle, and they're doing all the things that are wrong. Not wrong from a legal stand, but wrong from convictions that they've had long in their heart, knew it was wrong, but are now doing it again. They have chosen the darkness rather than the light. Thank you today. I'm very grateful that I can be here and share these truths with you. It's very important that you really look into your own heart and see, are you choosing the darkness rather than light? And remember, there is no darkness in the light of Jesus. You can come see me and my friends, at the same time, 10:30 each week, or you can go to the wordoffaithfellowship.org. There's probably hundreds. I don't even know. There may even be more than hundreds, maybe thousands of other testimonies there to help you not lose what you're trying to gain. You want to inherit the things of God. You want to go to heaven. Don't choose the darkness rather than light. Thank you.